other stuff, lots to get to. Let's get to it. First, we have to look at Lee Humphrey, and I like memes, right? And we've got the sinking ship Liberal, and Trudeau is kind of whistling away, ignoring it. And Chrystia Freeland says, Trudeau says, it can't get any worse. And Freeland says, it just got worse. And Freeland looks terrible. Like, she looks terrible. She's not even in her red dress, but she's like in a bosun's outfit, or Gilligan. She's in Gilligan's outfit. Gilligan was an idiot, right? And she says it just got worse. And there's the Arrive scam torpedo to sink the Liberal ship. So yeah, the press is fully on the side of Pierre Poilievre and the Conservatives. And that's not surprising at all. Obviously, because they've been authorized to be. Duncan D is sharing this. Garnet Genius is talking about the Arrive scam app thing. And it had incorrectly sent 10,000 people, Canadians, into quarantine, 10,000 plus people into quarantine. And Duncan says the federal government is willing to admit that ArriveCan sent 10,200 Canadians into quarantine erroneously. That's staggering, because if they're willing to admit such a high number, the total number is very likely even higher. So here's an exchange. It's only 25 seconds.
The report identifies that there were 10,000 Canadians falsely, inappropriately sent into quarantine by one out of the 177 versions of the app. What is the total number of people who were sent into quarantine by this app who shouldn't have been? Thank you.
10,200 were given a false notification that they should have been quarantined when they weren't actually needed to be quarantined.
The report identifies
10,200. Wow. And that's just what they'll admit to. I'm sure it was higher, right? And that's crazy. That's crazy. Mike's Money Talks says accountability. Good luck with that. I know I've been banging that drum forever. I mean, I hope I'm wrong. I really hope I'm wrong. And somehow, some way, there is accountability for the misdeeds that Canadians have been subject to be rectified legally, right? Like, rather than, look, everybody, it's puppy day. I'm going to post on social media and pretend like I didn't tell you everything was safe and effective. And yes, we have to lock down the economy and destroy your businesses. There has to be accountability for that. There has to be. Anyways, regardless, all 149 Liberals voted against the Auditor General undertaking an audit. In testimony before Commons Committee, Public Works Minister Jean-Yves Decloux refused to answer when asked 32 separate times who hired GC Strategies for ArriveCan. So Jack Mintz says Arrive scam boondoggle demands government accountability. Okay, good luck. Let me know how that goes. I've been asking for a while. So fingers crossed. Arrive scam, like I said, seems like a big deal. It seems like we're seeing a turn, but we'll see. March 1st comes, Jagmeet Singh says deal's off, and all of a sudden there's a confidence vote about Arrive scam, and then we've got an election. I don't know. Jagmeet Singh would just miss out on that pension. I mean, that's almost a happy ending, right? That's a Wayne's World reference. Okay. Dustin says this has to be a satirical event. I reported on this yesterday, and Garnet Genius is attending with Jason Kenney, talk about global religious persecution. And my question was, where's Arthur Pawlowski? Where is he? Is he going to show up and ask questions? And people are finding it kind of gauche that Jason Kenney, the guy who locked up pastors in Alberta, is attending, talking. I mean, unless he's talking as an expert, right? As someone with experience persecuting religions in Alberta, I have a few things to say, right? I don't know. Maybe we'll see. We'll see. I'll tell you how it goes. I'm sure everything's going to go off without a hitch, and everything will be just fine. And Jason Kenney will have very interesting insights. What's your game, Jason Kenney? Sharon says, this is despicable. When have youths hurting, or we have youths hurting here in Canada? So this is talking about something I reported on in December. Trudeau government giving $10 million to support unemployed youth in Iraq. So people are upset that our money is going out of the country to support foreign unemployed youth. And here's what's going on in country. Marie-Claude Bibeau says, despicable. Canadian foreign aid aims to help the world's most vulnerable. International development and women empowerment are essential to foster peace in every region. Backing off would significantly undermine Canada's credibility on the world stage. And Ahmed Hassan says, shocking. Pierre Poilievre admits he would cut aid to the most vulnerable. What else does he want to cut? So the waste of foreign aid in the form of $10 million to Iraqi unemployed youths is in jeopardy And these people are losing their mind because what else does Pierre Poilievre want to cut? Well, I mean, there's a whole lot of programs that we should probably cut. All of the money going outside of Canada from Canadian taxpayers, all of that money should be cut. And should be audited and looked at. And the receipts for Catherine McKenna's expenses and the rest. Anyway, here's the exchange between Pierre Poilievre talking about and reporters talking about foreign aid. Here we go.
My common sense plan will cut wasteful foreign aid. My common sense plan will cut wasteful foreign aid.
I think there's more to that 5 second clip to pearl clutch about, oh no, what about the Iraqi children? Right? Like, yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess maybe the Iraqi government could take care of them. Just that's one idea. Other ideas include any other government than ours. Anybody who wants to take care of them can. I hear the Hamas leadership is hanging out in Qatar. What's up with that, right? Like, so anybody could take ownership for Iraq, whatever you want. The Iraqi children, just not us. Okay. Tucker Carlson, let's talk about censorship. Tucker Carlson is released this episode and it's an hour and 4 minutes long. I haven't watched it yet. It just got released last night or yesterday, I guess. And I hadn't seen it. It's episode 75. The national security state is the main driver of censorship and election interference in the United States. What I'm describing is military rule, says Mike Benz. It's the inversion of democracy. So Mike Benz runs the Freedom Foundation. I think it's something like that, Freedom Something Foundation. And he's on Tucker Carlson talking about censorship. And I started following him a little while ago. And he puts out interesting content. His analysis is usually pretty good. I have not watched this episode. A lot of people think, like, I've seen other people talking about this episode on Twitter, talking about how, on X, whatever it is, talking about how great this episode is, and it really underlines the censorship and blah, 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 blah. So check it out. I'm going to check it out when I'm washing dishes today. You should check it out too. It's just Tucker's latest episode on X. So the link is in the description, but you won't need the link. Just go to X and look up Tucker. It'll be a top one. But I think that even X is censored. There's more than meets the eye there. What we see is what we're allowed to see, what we're made to see most of the time. And if we're not allowed to see it, it disappears, right? And like disappears, like, I know I've seen that video, where is it? And you can't find it, right? Or whatever it is. And after 6 months, I mean, like, we're goldfish almost. You forget, right? And so it's interesting the different methods they use for censorship. And I'll go over it really briefly. I'm probably treading over the same ground that this guy is covering, Mike Benzier is covering, but humor me. Here we go. Leonard says, does anyone have other examples? If so, link or screenshot in the comments. Thank you. Top is manipulated, left is restricted, right is suspended. There's more to be done on this app. So I don't know about what he's talking about there, but the top tweet is, they're not vaccine passports, they're movement licenses. It's not a vaccine, it's an experimental gene therapy. Lockdown is at best completely pointless universal medical isolation and at worst ubiquitous public incarceration. Call things what they are, not their euphemisms. That's one of the most heavily censored tweets on the platform, because it was a tweet at the time it was sent. And it's still that way. That tweet still is behaving strangely. John O'Looney's gone. His account is suspended. I've got more on that. USMC Lady Vet says, freedom of speech, not freedom of reach. Explain to me how with 66,000 followers, some things I post only get 600 views. I have 5,000 followers, which is not very big. Like, it's a small Twitter account. I don't even have the ability to have subscribers on Twitter. Like, they don't offer that to me because I don't have a big enough audience. So that's pretty funny. Fine by me. Okay. But I think that it's interesting that things that I post will sometimes only get like 8 views or like 20 views. My videos, 200 views, 220 views. Sometimes it's a certain amount of likes. If I hit 20 likes, and I've seen posts recently with the videos that got more than 20 likes, and I thought that's interesting. That changed. But for the most part, 20 likes and then it's gone. And the videos don't stay up on Twitter. They just disappear. They're just gone. Timeline gone. I don't know where they go. They're just gone. So, okay. So, and there's no real media management on Twitter. Like on Facebook, you've got media management. On YouTube, you've got media management. You can see all the videos that you've uploaded. I don't think there's anything like that on Twitter. So maybe I'm wrong, or X, whatever you want to call it. Leonard continues, here's content rating, blocked images, search invisibility, limited reach. This is Randy Hillier. Blocked images, search visibility, limited, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And there's more. 3 days ago, I posted a video of a little white girl being seriously assaulted by a mob of black people on a school bus. It was my most popular post ever, getting over 23 million views and over 80,000 likes. Last night, X locked my account for a day because of the post. The video has been posted on X before and is still up on other accounts, but my offense on this free speech platform was to put it in its proper context of the growing epidemic of black on white violence. I'm not the only one noticing this epidemic, and even Alex Jones retweeted it, calling it a one-way race war. Of course, if my account was called Crazy Fights or Radio Wokeness, the video would still be up and monetized. However, I was forced to delete it to get my account back. They gave no explicit reason for this, and they ignored my appeal. Slowly, nationalists are changing the narrative and putting the spotlight on how viciously anti-white the West has become from the top down. We will keep going until we have a society where anti-white hatred is no longer acceptable and no longer hidden. Free speech still has a long way to go. So, does he have a point, right? Is that what's going on here? But maybe it was going against that narrative, and so it had to go, right? But if it was on a Crazy Fights thing with a different tag to it, then it can stay, right? Very interesting. Well, we don't censor anything. The video's still up. Yeah, well, you are, though, censoring things. Brandon says, despite talk of free speech, X appears to be muting one of its most viewed tweets. And the tweet is John O'Looney. I think the tweet is John O'Looney. No, hold on. There's a different tweet. Yeah, the tweet's the one I showed you earlier. It's still very, very censored. It's not a vaccine passport. It's a movement license. It's not a vaccine. It's experimental gene therapy. It's that one. Okay. But I tagged this one to show you this. John O'Looney, the funeral director, exposing and raising concerns about the market increase in abnormal pathological clots being found in deceased, has been suspended on X. Is this freedom of speech? Is this really a platform for truth to be spoken? You have to wonder. I do. Because I wonder. I think that it's not a platform that believes in free speech. I think the platform is, well, there's a lot to say there. It's imperfect. And I mean, people are holding it up as like, thank goodness Elon Musk did this. Otherwise, we'd be trapped in a censorship hell and so on and so forth. Aren't we still? Isn't it the same thing still? Like, yeah, he freed it up a little bit, but then kind of put all of the controls back on. So I don't know. Jury's out still for me on X and how this free speech thing works. Even on Rumble too. So it's interesting. Michael Schellenberger's talking about free speech as well. He says, outstanding overview of the censorship industrial complex. Here's background on the U.S. government-funded Aspen Institute's role in spreading disinformation about the Hunter Biden laptop. The FBI spread disinformation and interfered in the election. So the censorship complex is not just that we will shut down people who are popular, or shut down people who are persuasive, or shut down people who are pushing out a specific narrative, right? Like, this isn't bum fights, this is race war. So race war has to go, but bum fights can stay, right? That's interesting to note, right? Like they can zero in and take you out, right? And it's more than that. They will remove real stories if the real story goes against the narrative using the same censorship tactics. And that's, I mean, we knew it was happening, but it's jaw-dropping at how effective it is because people don't even realize they've been had. Patrick says, and it's even worse than that because they'll use lawcraft. If you think to yourself, like say you think, I'll take over the NDP, I'll restore it to a workers' party, and I'll be it'll be a people's party again, and we'll restore the NDP and win the next election and so on and so forth. If you do that, then they will turn you into a monster like they did to Trump. Right? And they will make it seem like you're a bad guy, and then they will try and bankrupt you and throw you in prison with false indictments. Right? That's what they're doing to Trump. So it is censorship on every single level that you can possibly imagine. Patrick says, let's do some math. President Trump has been ordered to pay $83.3 million and $354 million. Combined, it's $437 million, including interest. It could be another $100 million. His net worth is estimated to be between $2 billion to $6 $2.6 billion. That's estimated to be between 21 to 27% of his net worth. However, experts have claimed that Trump has somewhere between $600 to $700 million in cash. Trump has said he only has $400 million in cash. That may seem like a lot to the average person, but not when you're being asked to pay $537 million in damages and interest. This doesn't include legal fees that have been piling up, as well as the fines his two sons received. If he chooses to appeal, he would have to secure a bond by putting up about 10% of the total amount owed. That could be $44 million, which he may not get back. In other words, this nonsense decision, an insane dollar amount by the judge, could deplete Trump's savings anywhere from $137 million to $163 million. Love him or hate him, this is what it means. 30 years from now, a woman can come out and falsely claim allegations against you, and if the judge hates your politics, they will believe her and make up any number to destroy your life savings. 2, if you build your wealth through real estate and pay back all your commitments to the banks, buyers, and sellers, a judge who hates your politics could make up any number to deplete your life savings and prevent you from doing business. So what does this do to capitalists and those with aspirations to run in the future? 1, scare the crap out of great future candidates. 2, eliminate anyone's family from supporting their father or mother from running. 3, distance family members from those who choose to run and avoid being sued. Notice which of Trump's kids got sued and who didn't. 4, make the candidates rethink why they ever chose to run in the first place and ruin the lifestyle of the rich and famous they once had. Or, last but not least, it could energize an entire new generation who love America to realize how much trouble she's in to fight like heck and defend the values this nation was built on. This requires a certain level of courage that words can't describe. This won't be a fight for everyone. You're going to have a few screws missing to get in this fight. But what is freedom worth to you? That's the most important question one has to ask. God is good. Future looks bright. So who knows what's going to go on with all of that? But this is a message. There's this court decision. And Elon Musk is asking questions about it. Citizen Free Press is highlighting this. Elon Musk wants to know who Trump is supposed to pay, given that there were no victims. So Charlie Kirk is breaking this. President Trump is ordered to pay $354 million in the New York civil fraud trial by Judge Engoron. Donald Trump Jr. and Eric Trump ordered to pay $4 million each. This is a case where with zero victims, all loans were repaid, and the banks even testified in defense of Trump hotels. Elon Musk says, given that there were no victims with losses, who is supposed to receive the money? So what? So yeah, Jack Pozzo says MSNBC is jumping back and forth from being outraged about how Putin treats his political opposition to cheering the $350 million fine against Trump today. Really something to see. Yeah. So pretty interesting, right? Like, how dare Putin kill that guy? And we'll talk about that later. Who knows? The guy died in custody, and he was a CIA asset trying to run a color revolution in Russia. And I'll show you that. But the whole thing's wild and crazy. So we'll get there closer to the end of the show. But the questions abound, man. It's wild. It's absolutely incredible. So on one side, how dare Putin do that? But on the other side, yes, let's bankrupt this guy because we don't like him. And we don't like his politics of America first because we're globalists. Wow, it's incredible. Sorry, I've got a little frog in my throat. I think I fixed it, but we'll see. Dan McTeague is responding to Tim Houston. Tim Houston is the Premier of Nova Scotia. And he says, in Nova Scotia, we build roads. We'd prefer the federal government work with us to get them built. But we'll continue to build up Nova Scotia either way. And so all of the conservative premiers are getting on board this whole we build roads thing after Stephen Guilbeault said, we're not building roads anymore. There's no more money for that in a presser. And then he clarified, oh, I didn't mean that, like less than 24 hours later, which seems kind of, I don't know, suspicious if you ask me. Like they intended to not build roads anymore, not fund big projects like roads or anything like that anymore. But then the backlash is enough to get them to clarify what they meant and walk it back. Anyway, this is part of the letter. It says, Dear Honorable Prime Minister, I'm writing to you to express concerns over comments made on February 12th by Minister Stephen Guilbeault, in which he stated that the federal government will stop investing in new road infrastructure. Minister Guilbeault has indicated that the federal government has decided that existing road infrastructure is perfectly adequate to respond to the needs we have, and that there will be no more envelopes from the federal government to enlarge the road network. Minister Guilbeault further indicated that the reasoning behind this decision is that the federal government can achieve goals of economic, social, and human development without more enlargement of the road network. Noted that your government is intent on moving people out of their cars and into public transit. Indicated that the federal government also wants to encourage more walking and cycling. As you are aware, hundreds of thousands of Nova Scotians live in rural and suburban areas where there is no public transit, where the age or family circumstances doesn't allow them to bicycle or walk everywhere. Our project process is based on the premise that your government will honor its previously approved commitments around the Invest in Canada Infrastructure Fund, New Building Canada Fund, the National Trade Corridors Fund, the Disaster Mitigation and Adoption Fund, and other related investments, which are expected to be in the range of $106 million. Anticipated projects under considerations for future approvals are in the order of $849 million, which includes the Chenecto Isthmus. Sorry, I'm probably getting that wrong. Pulling the federal component of these investments could put the safety of hundreds of thousands of Nova Scotians at risk. Many Nova Scotians, particularly those living in rural areas, are feeling pressured right now. The carbon tax is a disproportionate impact on them, and they're feeling it. They do not have a choice. They have to drive. Whether it be to work, to school, to doctor's appointments, or to visit friends and family, statements like the ones by Minister Guilbeault villainize them in a way that is completely unfair. I'm seeking your assurance that this is not truly your intent to stop road investments. So Minister Guilbeault's walking it back was a weak attempt, and people want assurances. So they're writing directly to the Prime Minister. That's interesting, right? That's interesting that premiers are taking that action. The Few is sharing this. Labour to reinstate petrol and diesel ban ahead of schedule in dramatic turn towards EVs. So this is in the United Kingdom, and they previously had a target of 2035 for EVs to be 100% of sales, which is similar to Canada. And people were pushing back on that, saying, like, we don't want that. And so they scrapped it. And then they reinstated it and moved it up 5 years to 2030 to encourage this change. So they scrapped it because of public pressure, and now they're moving ahead, despite the public opposition, faster than they were before. Because I think they're running out of time, because I think that this whole grift is falling apart. But we're not there yet. We're not there yet. People still believe in it, but quite a lot. Mark Friesen says, this is a really good sign. Fox Business is reporting JP Morgan Chase BlackRock drop out of the massive UN Climate Alliance in stunning move. JP Morgan Chase says its in-house sustainability efforts are sufficient to fight global warming. So if the two big companies like BlackRock and JP Morgan Chase are pulling out of the climate initiatives at the level of money, etc., then you would think that, that other people would follow suit. Other big companies would stop investing in these things that these big companies are not investing in anymore because it's a waste of money and people don't want climate communism. Maybe, but I also have to question the entity BlackRock itself is too big and has too much influence to exist. And I think that it existing by itself is a problem, because it can offset. If Bud Light pisses off its base and Budweiser has a bad year, BlackRock can help that company out, if you know what I mean. Executives make phone calls and people buy stocks, and there's ways to offset those losses to prop up a company to shelter through something like that, right? And it feels like BlackRock on one side will mandate that companies do things like have transgender representatives in order to push this contagion. It's a social contagion that's being pushed through media and social channels like that. And then when the predictable backlash happens, the investors call BlackRock and say, hey, help us out here. BlackRock does, and keeps everybody in the pocket, makes Budweiser not fail as a company, maybe go through rough times, but everybody keeps them afloat. Another beer takes over as the big beer, whatever it is. And then at the end of the whole thing, when all is said and done, the social contagion has been satisfied with Dylan Mulvaney being the voice of Bud Light. Budweiser's fine, and everybody moves on as if like nobody did anything untoward, nothing was weird about it or anything like that. And I think that like it's not a zero-sum game, but we're being played for fools. And like it's like a shell game, and we're the victim who's unwittingly playing into the game that we are going to lose. It's just a matter of time, right? Even if you've got a short win, if you play long enough, you're going to lose, I think. Here's Seamus O'Regan talking about carbon taxes, and he talks about how redistribution of wealth is putting money into your hands. This tax does not impact the environment at all. It doesn't impact the weather. It doesn't impact whether we have snow or anything like that. It would be much more impactful to stop climate change if we stopped all the spraying in the skies. If we stopped all the spraying in the skies, I bet you winter would return with a vengeance. Here's Seamus O'Regan.
The whole idea of this was, and this dates right back to, Preston Manning. He defended this idea as being a market-friendly way for the market to recognize that there's some things and some products are more carbon-intensive than others. Look, this is I think, a smart policy. It allows us, frankly, to take on much bigger spenders in this area than, like the Americans, who have hundreds of billions of dollars that they can throw at climate change, and in effect are right now in the United States under the Biden administration. But what we're trying to do here is find a way where we can affect behavior in a good way so that we are lowering carbon emissions, and then we are rewarding those companies and people who produce products and services that are lower in carbon intensity, so we can put out those market signals and at the same time make sure that 8 out of 10 families and households are not taking this out of pocket. That is what we have designed here. And it's what a lot of economists think is the most efficient way to make sure that we lower carbon emissions in this country, reward businesses that meet that price target, that price signal, and make sure that people have cold hard cash in their pockets.
The carbon tax takes a lot more, makes things way more expensive than what you get back in the rebate. Way more expensive. So all of the things that he's talking about are just selling points that are false. It's like hearing that a car gets 100 miles a gallon, and then you get the car and you're like, wait a second, this gets like 9 miles a gallon. What are you talking about 100 miles a gallon? And then the person says, well, it's necessary to lie to you. Otherwise, you'd never have bought the car. Yeah. Hello, everyone. Thanks very much for watching. This is just a short version of a longer show. If you'd like to get the whole show, you can go over to CanadaPoly.com and sign up for a subscription. Just look in the drop-down tab for Shop and Donate and look for subscriptions, and you'll get immediate access to the full show. Love to see you. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a wonderful, wonderful